Here is the productivity system I found that made me $3,500 per month doing almost completely nothing. Yes, kind of passive income. The truth is, a killer productivity system could be the difference of you having your mortgage paid on autopilot every single month and living at your mom's house in your 30s. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But how exactly do you get there? Well, to find that out, I've actually watched a lot of the podcasts, YouTube videos, and read all these books that you see in the background from the top productivity and business experts in the world and tested what actually worked for me. And what I found after 109 pages later, I know, super specific, I discovered that the best productivity system that works for me at least follows this 5-part formula. And doing these not only made me richer, but made me healthier and happier too, all while doing less. And in this video, I'll walk you step by step through them all. My promise, by the way, is to teach you my productivity system that made me happier, made me more money, and optimized my energy, all while being happier. And we'll talk about why that last part is so important. But first of all, respect to you. I have to say, one of the things that I hate on YouTube are these quick dopamine shorts and reels that just zap and kill your brain. You who are stumbling upon this, you're choosing to watch these long form, low dopamine full guides instead of the clickbait short form videos. Whether you like him or not, this video was really inspired by Hamza just because these are the type of videos I personally watch, and these are the videos that I believe that are going to save the next generation. We'll talk more about that later. But the truth is, 99% of the people, the world, are watching cheap dopamine content that kills people's brains. They're watching Mr. Beast, they're watching like these prank channels. While it's cool to just watch these every once in a while and see what's happening, I believe that by scrolling all these, it really zaps you of your critical thinking and introspective nature. As like, when I'm going to these masterminds, I realize people like Vanessa and Chris Do and all these other cool people I met, they spend a lot of time thinking, critically analyzing, and they all have thinking time. And I believe by listening to this long form content, it gives you the time to just really digest the information a lot easier. And so if you are watching this full guide, then you have a top 1% attention span, totally backed by science. I'm kidding, by the way. So you're probably wondering, why should you even listen to this bald Asian guy? So if you don't know me, I actually went from burnt out pharmacist making $0 of money online to YouTuber making passive income with YouTube. This is actually a picture of me at work, by the way, which my employer found. They weren't too happy about it. During this time, I would document like me just being unhappy and stuff with my career. And I always felt burnt out. I didn't feel fulfilled with my work. And oftentimes what people don't know about pharmacists, like we're a doctorate degree, but we're trapped in 12 hours in the pharmacy. And I was making $0 per month in passive income, besides like investing into my 401k, Roth IRAs, and all that sort of stuff too. And now I actually took this picture just like 2 days ago. I was actually working at a coffee shop, this place called Finn Smith in Las Vegas. But I was just watching BJJ videos. While I was doing it, I was calculating how much money I made, and I made over $3,500. I actually underestimated a bit. And you're probably like, oh, do you have the receipts? Well, if you don't believe me, here are my receipts for this month. We're not at the end of the month, so I actually have some more money coming in. But this is the month to date of May 26, 24. I think there's 30 or 30, I can't remember how many days are in May. But basically, we have like a few more days until the month's end, and I'll be getting paid a bit more. And the crazy part was like majority of this was all passive. So on the top left, you'll see some affiliate income from Go High Level. It's a CRM that I use. You'll see some income coming from this app called Readwise. You'll see some income from this app that I promoted a while ago, Shortform. That is great. All these are tools that I personally use, by the way. And then on the left, you'll see some like Google payouts, and then you'll also see some more affiliates, a referral deal, and some passive client retainers from Ali Abdaal too. We'll break down all the different ways that I did it, but I just want to let you know, like, I'm not lying to you. So don't think I'm a ClickFunnels guru. If you've bought from this channel, it like especially supported me with affiliates and my products, I just want to give a thank you. It really goes to supporting my team and just supporting me too. So I couldn't do this without you. I just want to show you behind the scenes of how I make my money. There's a few caveats though. One, this does not reflect my revenue every single month. Sometimes certain affiliates do $0, and I didn't show you all the affiliate money I made. This also includes some of my client retainers. So I have, the way I set up some of my deals is that if there's no work for me, they pay me passively. And over these last few months, I've just been getting paid passively for that. And And the best part about this is like, this money is all clean energy. So back in the day, I used to work with some ClickFunnels gurus when I first started because I couldn't find work anywhere else. But what I realized is like, it never felt really good. And I think this concept of clean energy, resentment-free like engagements and stuff, and doing things that feel aligned and ethical. We're getting a little woo-woo here, but things that feel ethical is really important because that leads to sustainable money. And before you're like, oh, Kevin, you're probably gonna pitch me on your course at the end. No, I have nothing to sell you right now. I have no guru course. If you've been following me for a while, I've actually put out a lot of my free content. I put out a free high ticket closing course, 100% free, probably better than a lot of the trainings that you'll see from your gurus like Jeremy Miner, Cole Gordon, and all that. Actually, I'm going to record a YouTube training after this slide here. And so, like I said, I want to show you the system that allowed me the energy and space to make this passive income. And in case you don't know me, I'm Kevin. Like I mentioned earlier, I used to be a pharmacist, and now I make videos that save people's lives. This is a picture of me and my mom. Super cute. She flew all the way from Boston and found me at the pharmacy. But I make videos for people who are stuck in a soulless 9-to-5 career. They're trapped in student debt. They're endlessly doom scrolling on social media, trying to numb themselves, and helping people who have a deep desire to do something more. Because this was me. This is literally me trying to start up my YouTube channel back in the day when I was a pharmacist. And here's the truth, the traditional education failed us. I feel like more people than ever are feeling alone, unfulfilled, and unprepared for the new digital era. And so my mission is really to create the best school for creators by teaching people like you and me and documenting what I do. By teaching them how to become the best entrepreneurial creators, how to master really essential skills like high ticket skills like sales, ethical marketing, content marketing, and just building superhuman health. We'll talk more about why that's so important later, but really it's to unlock our full potential. And so if you're into that, you can get emails that will improve and change your life and your creator business. I send these crazy long emails and stuff. They're probably serve as the basis of a lot of these videos that I'm doing, but I go into super in-depth things, and it's like getting letters from your digital pen pal who talks a lot, right? But sends really valuable insights. So if you're into that, link is in the top description below. Final thing is, if this guide changes your life, please leave a comment below with your story. It helps the algo gods send it to someone who might really need it, someone who's also into business and personal development. And plus, it helps me make better content for you guys because I can gauge what you guys find valuable and what you guys don't. So let's begin. Before we get into everything, some of these you might have heard before, but the truth is, as I was sitting at my friend's mastermind with all these boomers, I was the youngest person there. You know, what I realized is like everybody knows like a lot of the typical fundamental stuff, but the truth is the things that work aren't always sexy. But here's something that people don't tell you about. The system that I'm going to show you that worked for me, there's 5 areas to optimize to start making money: friends, offers, diet, training, and environment. And before you're like, oh, diet, training, what the heck does that have to do with everything? It's a huge part. You're probably like, why should we even care about energy and happiness? Aren't these like woo-woo concepts? And the truth is, making money while you're tired and depressed is 1,000% harder. Something I'm really big into is sustainability. When you enjoy the process and when you're a lot happier, you don't always have to be happy to do the task. But even if you're 80% happier most of the time, you're gonna want to do the hard work sometimes. It's just like jujitsu. I don't enjoy getting choked. Well, sometimes I do, but like I don't enjoy getting choked or thrown in an armbar. I would say 80 to 90% of the time, I really do enjoy it because I'm constantly growing and developing. So the real question is how do we shift the odds in our favor? How do we actually enjoy the process, right? And something also to keep in mind is like, assuming that you're working on money making or revenue generating projects, like for me, it's like sales and like doing these YouTube videos, but the more energy I have, the more I can focus during my deep focus sessions, and the more productive my sessions are, the more money I make. Really, as I was thinking about this presentation, was like, how do I make my working sessions way more productive? What are the focused tasks that will really move the business and really generate revenue? Because that's part of the game, like generating revenue and just making sure you're at a healthy profit margin. And how do I work longer without necessarily like burning out? And the thing is, if you burn out, you can end up quitting and you'll just dissolve your business. One of my friends, Vanessa Lau, she actually took a year sabbatical. She had so much momentum, but just burnt out. And one of the things I think about is like, I don't want to get to that point in the business where I do the same thing. Honestly, I think I learned a lot of lessons through her sabbatical, and I think rest is really well needed. But then I think about, how do I just avoid that completely? Because the more that you can free up your energy, the more capacity you have. Like, I think about, oh man, ever since I started taking care more of my like freaking health and stuff, I can actually work longer and focus a lot longer than most normal people. I think pharmacy school helped with it, but definitely having the physical capability helped too. Keep in mind, if you don't have a business right now and only have a 9 to 5, that's completely okay. We'll cover some of the fundamentals in here, but just know that you won't see crazy results immediately. I think this is really important because sometimes you'll watch these YouTube videos and just be like, oh my God, they're making like freaking 10K per month in passive income. But then we forget, like, that might not apply to our situations. And I just want to kind of show you this because I don't think you'll find too many people like me who went like the pharmacy route and has been doing this for almost 10 years now. So let's look at this. So in green, we have a creator business. In orange, we have like 9 to 5 with a side hustle. And in red, we have a 9 to 5 with no side hustle. So I'm going to walk you through each stage of my life. And so this was me like 10 years ago, believe it or not. I was actually working at the hospital as a pharmacy intern during my rotations. Good times. But like back then, I did not have this YouTube channel. I always wanted to do YouTube at the time, but I just never did it. And so this was pharmacy school student Kevin, actually 12 years ago, crazy. But I didn't have like a business vehicle. So I had no like business at all. I would use my free time and energy to study for exams. I would go clubbing a lot. I would like work hours at the pharmacy, and I would chase ABGs. Oh my God, I would try to rizz up girls every single weekend. We would go clubbing every weekend. And I read the book, The Game, back in the day. Oh man, I was such a boy. And if I use that energy, the best case scenario, I would get A's on my exams. Not really, I wasn't that great of a pharmacy student, to be honest with you. And I would make something like $12 an hour, which I thought was amazing at the time. But notice, like, even though if I optimize my energy, I would get very little like revenue benefit, right? Okay, fast forward a few years later when I was a pharmacist. This was like, I think year 1. You can tell I had those crazy lines in my hair and stuff like back in the day. I was pretty crazy. But this is when I actually moved in with my friend Joe Jitsukawa from JK Films. And he really inspired me to start up my YouTube channel. I started this blog and it's still up today. I use it all the time, actually post these videos. It's called Refugee Hustle. And then I was a baby YouTuber at the time, believe it or not. So I just started my YouTube channel. I think you can find one of my first videos, like it was in a car in K-Town and stuff and I was shooting. Or I didn't have a mic, I was using a camera mic, believe it or not. And I would use my energy in time split between driving to work, being a pharmacist, YouTube, and still chasing ABGs on the weekend. That was pretty bad. Who end up breaking my heart and screwing me up. And best case scenario, if I optimized my energy, was like I would make $67 an hour, which was pretty decent. So a lot of great revenue, but when you're on a pharmacist salary, you're just like capped at a certain level. So that's why it kind of flattens out. I wasn't really monetized at the time too. I had a few videos that would pop off, some about pharmacies. One was a girl who left her camera on by accident, but it was actually really on purpose. That got over 1 million views. I hid the video, by the way, on my channel, but I got known for things that I didn't really want to be known for, if that makes sense. So that was that. Now let's fast forward to today. This is 2024, same photo that I showed you at the coffee shop. But now mostly like I'm full-time YouTube and I do high ticket sales for a lot of creators like Ali Abdaal and all that. That is my full-time. So now when I use my energy, like I'm creating offers, doing market research for these videos and for my different high ticket offers. I'm hiring a YouTube team here. I'm like focusing on how do I create really profitable content that, audiences need. Like what are product reviews I want to do? What are some like different products that I want to create into the world? And so now the best case scenario is like I get I don't want to say a super viral video, but I'll get a very niched viral video for the things I want to be known for. As a result of it, I know how to monetize and I can make monthly passive income now, or monthly recurring revenue. That's what MRR stands for. I can create a content team, which can remove a lot of the friction and make the process a lot more enjoyable. And I can make a lot more revenue. And that's why it's almost like an exponential curve to what I did before. As you're looking at this, you might be like, oh, like when you're looking at pharmacist Kevin and YouTube Kevin, you might be like, you're working so much more now. And actually, what I realized as I was making these slides is like, it's not about doing more. When I was reflecting on my month of May, like slash end of April, the last quarter, I barely worked. Here are all the things that I did was like, I got all these opportunities to speak at my friend Mike Kim's mastermind event. This was my dream since like 2021, 2020 during like COVID when I was like really depressed. My ex at the time broke up with me. I really looked up to Mike because he was just like an older Hyung almost. You can find a podcast on this channel. I helped Ali Abdal make a bunch of new revenue dollars too with PTYA and his accelerator. I hosted my first birthday party in years at a karaoke joint, which is super Asian. It was one of the things that honestly I started integrating into my life too. We'll talk more about that later. I really relaunched my YouTube creator mastermind, and this was all inspired by Vanessa Lau, by the way. Bunch of cool creators, like we have April Lynn, we have like some Catan people, like really great people in this room. We have Outcast from the 853, Stella, Seaman, a lot of great people, Andres. I also expanded my YouTube team too. There's a picture of me and one of my editors, and one of my editors was actually walking around in Vegas. I was like, what the heck are you doing here? Turns out one of his clients actually flew him out, and he didn't even tell me. We just ran into each other at the strip. And then obviously, you know about my passive income with affiliate marketing on YouTube too. We'll talk more about that later. But what I realized is that YouTube, aka my creator business, is the leverage that I have. And the truth is, the more leverage you have, and if you have a vehicle for that leverage, the more results that you'll get. So you won't see crazy results if you don't have any leverage. That was my main point and kind of disclaimer. If you're a 9-to-5er, the biggest mistake I did was like, I would use my energy and just like kind of waste it. But if you're a 9-to-5er and your goal is to like really start up a business and make leverage. And one of the things I'm doing this whole video on how I would quit pharmacy if I could do it again. But if I were to do it again, I would be hiring people, doing systems and stuff, and building your business while you're in your 9-to-5 because you have consistent cash flow. You can check out that video later, but I would say watch this video first if you want to continue. So let's go over the 5 different areas to start making money. So the first area to optimize are your friends. And one of the ways that I boosted this was hosting 2-hour events. So recently I was at this mastermind event. If you don't know what a mastermind is, it's kind of like a business relational product or service. It's almost like playing matchmaker for different friends. And a lot of times we'll just meet up twice a week online and just like kind of talk about our business and get peer advisory from everyone. So we have different hot seats and all that. I learned this format through my friend Mike Kim, and I went to Vanessa Lau's mastermind and just helped her shoot. That's when I learned this concept of masterminds and how cool they are, especially in person. Like I'm pretty much the youngest person in this room, which is crazy. But I was at this mastermind event with these older people. I'm paraphrasing the quote. But someone basically said, if you have a good reputation of treating people well and you just stay in the game, there's no way that you won't be successful in business. And the crazy part is like, you don't even have to be the best at what you do. You just need to be someone that you can trust because most people just drop over time. And it's true in all aspects in our life. It's true with things like jujitsu, like most people quit before they're like blue belt or something like that. People just drop over time. And what I realized, like while I was sitting outside this like beautiful place in Detroit, just overlooking, and we're just chopping it up. One guy's like on a hammock, like right next to me. And I'm just like kicking my feet up, just checking out the backyard and shit. I'm like, damn, Detroit is like, I mean, I'm allergic to everything up there. But like during the springtime, it was really cool just like feeling the breeze, just sitting outside, touching the grass, as the kids say these days. But what I realized is that we've all been lied to. Especially for me, I've always believed that I needed to work harder, and gurus will tell you to hustle or that you need to buy their course because knowledge is power. It's like, that's the biggest BS in life. Because the truth is, when I was at these events, everybody knows pretty much the same amount, but it's not the knowledge that really opens up opportunities. If you think about it, just taking a course doesn't really change your life. It might change your life like if you're doing freelance, once you have like a vehicle, and you learn something, yeah, you can apply it, but just taking a course doesn't really change your life. But when I was looking back at the real best investments for me personally, it was always the relationships. And I was like, because I would get referrals that way, people would make introductions. It's honestly like one of the best and most ethical ways to do business because people are just spreading your good name. And so that's where I realized like where relationships are kind of like index funds, right? At first they're slow as fuck. You're just like, why am I even doing this? But over time, they grow. And it's really slow at first, but just like with dollar cost averaging, it's something that you see exponential growth over time. And when I was looking at my revenue numbers, I was like, this is the number one reason why I've been getting more clients, more referrals, and most importantly, kick-ass friends. And I think that last part is so important because here's the thing, this is fun as and this is like your marketing campaign too. Like if we think about marketing, this is how you market like IRL. But you're probably like, how do I make more friends? And so there's this great book my friend recommended. It's called The 2-Hour Cocktail Party. It's about how to host events. And I do this both online and I do it IRL too, in real life. So I think those are great ways to do it. But like the first one, I think is like a lot more fulfilling. So if I had to choose one, I would host more local events. This book teaches you how to throw parties. But if you're completely broke, you can do it all virtually too. I hosted my first 2-hour cocktail party recently too. And this is how you do it. So you pretty much write a list of 15 people, including a core 5. You don't have to choose 5 people, but basically what you want is core group of people that you know, like, and trust, that like you just chop it up. Like these are your homies. And the second thing I do is I find a place to host. In the book, 2-Hour Cocktail Party, he recommends finding someone's home to host or using your own apartment to host. Personally, I did mine when I shot it at this karaoke place and told everyone it was my birthday. It was so up because it was actually people's real birthday. That day I didn't know. And I got a birthday cake, but I celebrated my birthday like a month later. But yeah, like happy hours are great. You can do axe throwing. When we were at the mastermind event, Mike did axe throwing. Bars are a little loud, honestly. Pool halls, coffee shops, taco joints. Like we have this place called Tacos El Gordo. You can do a photo shoot in the park. You can choose whatever you want. The most important thing is that you want to make sure people can chop it up. And then what I do is I'll send a time availability text. I'll send this like 3 to 4 weeks before I'm planning an event. As people get older, we just have a lot more commitments, right? And so giving people a heads up is important. I also chose, this is something I didn't include the slide, but I chose like a Wednesday or a Monday through Wednesday date. These are low commitment where people are more likely to say yes. And it gives you a time cap of like 2 hours. 2 hours is like perfect because if it's 3, people will come super, super late. But 2 hours is perfect because like, you know, you can end the night early and stuff too. I send confirmation text with the Notion doc. I'll show you all this before. Basically, I'm like, hey, these are details for the events. Can you come, right? And then I'll send Notion intros. This is completely optional. And the 2-hour cocktail party doesn't talk about this because he's like, oh yeah, you don't want people to know that people are flaking and stuff. I don't care about that. I think what's more important for me is that it's not awkward for my friends and all that too. 3 days before, I'll just like write these like really quick intros about like the people and all that. We'll talk more about that later. The 2-hour cocktail party is big on buying name tags, snacks and drinks. Like this whole event I actually paid for. I used the business funds for it. I invited about 25 people. It was like less than $300. It was like $290 or something like that. So for me, like I have a business, I can pay for it. And if it's not too much, like don't overextend yourself. But like if you can pay for it, I like doing that. But and it just makes it a little bit more exclusive. And plus these are my real friends. I just want to take care of them and stuff and investing into relationships, right? And while you're at the event, you want to intro people together at the event, take a group photo, and then just make a group chat after the event too. So let's go into the details, but like if you can't tell, I'm a Notion nerd. So I love Notion because I can organize everything, like all the yeses, the nos and stuff. There's probably better ways to organize it. I just made a quick like Notion board. And here were the texts that I sent. So like one was like the time availability text. So think about hosting a party, blah, 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 on May 1st from blah, blah, blah time to 10 p.m. Most likely it'll be karaoke. I can send deets later. But if I do it, would you and blah, blah, blah come, right? So that was like my first text, and they'll be like, yes, no. Sometimes you'll have to bump people, which is totally cool. Just keep my text like super casual, like how I normally send it. The next one is a confirmation text, and what I blocked out was like the link to my Notion board, and make sure to set it public, by the way. I do that about like 7 to 10 days before. And then I'll send Notion intros 2 to 3 days before too. So Those are 3 texts I sent. The important details, I think, like in your Notion board is like obviously location and time. Like disclaimers, especially, or expectations, I would say. Like I want to do name tags. I'll be vlogging at this event, so if you're uncomfortable, just let me know. And I want to take a group photo at this time, right? Like things like that I think are really important. And then confirmation deadlines too. Like, hey, can you please confirm by this date? So that should just go into it. And then intro details. So when I did it, I basically was like, hey, you know, I don't want to be awkward and just provide conversation starters for people. And so basically what I did was like I grouped people in different sections based off of what I thought about them and just gave an intro about like, yo, how I met them, some common interests, and a link to her IG so they can peep the IGs and stuff. What was really cool was like after event, my friend Julia, I met her at Vanessa's. She really appreciated that gesture of me kind of organizing everything like that. And the cool thing about this too is like people remember this. At the event too, I was like, hey, you know, if anybody wants to co-host the event, I would love to do that. Or if you want to get invited to future events. I think the cool part about this is like your friends of your friends will most likely be your friends. If you think about it, most of my friends get along with each other too. And it's really cool when you see your friends like actually really chop it up like without you. And so if you want to do this, what are your action steps? Well, I would say write out your guest list of like 15 people, send out your texts, send out your confirmation texts, and then host your event. Super simple. And you can do this online too. I've done creator events to like YouTubers and stuff like that, human design. Just take these different themes in your life and you can just host an event. So this is one of my secrets. It was really cool because I got some referral fees, finder fees and stuff out of it too, which I didn't even ask for. And that's another way you can monetize. So what's the second thing? Offers. So finding products and offers that your friends need. And if you're probably like me, then you probably hate most salespeople. And it's kind of weird saying this because I'm actually in high ticket sales, believe it or not. And so as I was writing this video at that coffee shop that I was telling you about, I literally got pitched cologne. Like, I'm dead freaking serious. I'm not even joking. It was this kid. You gotta respect the hustle, but like, this was literally the pitch. And it's like, you can't read the room, which is like a big part of sales, in my opinion. But he was like, quick question, do you like cologne? I have cologne that will get all the, excuse my language, the hose. I'm like, oh my God, you are definitely a freaking teenager for sure. This normally goes for 200, but then we have a 2-for-1 deal today, right? So bad. Like I said no, right? And then he's like, tell you what, I work commission only. If you support me and pick it up today, I'll give you it for 40. And I was like, no, I'm all set, bro. And then he was like, what's the reason? Is the price? You don't want to support a young hustler like me? Still even got the flyer, bro. Crazy. Like, I have nothing against like supporting people and stuff, but the worst part is like, I didn't want to be stuck with something that smelled like complete ass. And I rather honestly use that money to support my friends and creator businesses that I really love and stuff too, right? You know, like one of the things too, like for me is like, I've always kind of had an aversion to sales because of like people like this. As a business owner, you can't have this aversion because if you do, then you're not going to make any money and you can't support your team or your family or the other creators that I was talking about. Like the whole relationship thing, I couldn't do that if I wasn't making revenue. What we think sales is not how sales actually is. And I have a whole course on that if you want to check it out. But in my opinion, I think I got this from Hormozy, but he was talking about how sales skills are really overrated. While sales Riz is super nice, honestly, a sexy offer will really attract people regardless of your sales skills. So for example, that kid, if he had a really great cologne, I might have bought. I probably wouldn't have bought, honestly. But because I just don't buy in those environments, but you get the picture. If you have a really great deal or something like that, like then people will buy. So the question is, how do we make a sexy offer? And of course, you could read one of my favorite books, 100 Million Offers and all that. But when I think about irresistible offers, how to create one, I think about my friends, the friends and people I actually give a fuck about. And then also I think about myself, like what have I bought? You know, that self-love stuff, those affirmations, who knew that those things would have helped, right? So there's a few options, right? You got option one, you can make your own offer. So this is not recommended for beginners. It's quite complex. I have a whole video about this coming out. We're working on it. But basically, there's this book called 100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. Really great book. It breaks down how to make a grand slam offer. And I talk about it in my high ticket sales course too. And then there's this newer book that I read. It's called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. He talks about how to create like an oversubscribed list. How do you assess demand? He's big on wait lists, and I use that in all my high ticket offers now, but you can make your own offer. If you're a beginner, I probably wouldn't recommend this. I would go with option 2, find other people's offers that you use and love. And so this is way easier. And the reason why you're seeing a cupping machine, by the way, is like recently, my mom has been getting a lot of cupping, and I actually get cupping too. But if you've ever gone cupping, it's really expensive and stuff. And so I found these cupping cups on Amazon that actually self-cup. And what's really cool about it is like, it'll turn on. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it'll start sucking your skin and stuff. I started it. I was like, oh my God, this is like one of the best investments I ever had. And so I know my mom got cupping. So then I was like, hey mom, let me send you over these cups and stuff. And if you don't like it, you can return it. So my mom, she stopped going to cupping specials because of these things. And who knew that $25 item could change your life? In my opinion, it's a grand slam offer because obviously I love my mom, right? And so like, if you can find things that will help people's lives, it doesn't feel like selling anymore. By the way, link is in the description below if you want this cup. But you're probably like, okay, this is cool, Kevin, but how do you actually make a living from it? And if you remember from my screenshots, like I had a bunch of things. Like one of my favorite ways to make money is actually affiliate marketing. And I feel like it's really great if you're like have an aversion to sales. Now there's people that pitch their link everywhere. The most authentic ways that I do it is like I make product reviews for the products I love on YouTube. So I think about like a good friend, and like, you know, that good friend who like buys everything and tells you about all this cool stuff that they bought recently? This is like how I imagine myself, and I want to give everything that I wish I knew, like all the deals, the promos and all that, just like as a good friend, right? So I think about that. When I think about creating offers for consulting, I think about like offering additional help or making like introductions for problems that I'm seeing in my client's Slack channel. If you don't know what Slack is, it's basically, it's kind of like Discord, but it's a business Discord. And people are always dropping like, hey, blah, blah, blah went wrong. And sometimes when you can step back, you can see recurring problems. I was actually trying to connect Ali and Vanessa Lau together, but maybe they'll do a podcast later down the line. But I see the connection. I also like have my creator mastermind. So I like during my mastermind calls, I help the mastermind clients like find quicker ways to make money in their business, or maybe they're trying to negotiate something or look over a contract. And even though I'm not a complete expert at contracts, like I'm not a lawyer, I have like lawyer friends that are really great at it. I'll basically help them position like negotiations and price anchoring and just really enforce these techniques that I talk about all the time. Then I have a YouTube accelerator that I'm actually creating. So I haven't created this yet, but it's really helping other people make their first YouTube video and thumbnail using my team. This isn't launched, and I am a little kind of like worried about this because I'm just like, oh my God, we all have so much capacity, but that actually might be a good thing because we might actually be like oversubscribed too. This was really inspired by having so many conversations with my business friends who want to do YouTube, and my business, like the business people at the mastermind too. And then the YouTube too, like doing full guides like this and doing full courses on everything I know without gatekeeping. So these are different ways I actually make my money. If you want to do this, what are action steps? So I think one, if you are just brand new to this, you want to find a product that you love. You want to sign up for an affiliate. So most of the websites and products out there, you can sign up for an affiliate. Just type in the brand or product and just write affiliate and you can sign up. Usually most affiliate programs are pretty easy to apply to. But one of the easiest ways for affiliate income is just like shoot a video about it and just post it up. Keep in mind, one thing is like, if you're trying to build a YouTube brand, the only caveat behind this too is like, do you want your name to be tied to this brand? A mistake that I made back in the day is like, I promoted this life-changing course. It was a guru course, and it was actually how I got into high ticket sales. And that was a mistake that I made. I didn't want to be associated with that brand. I would probably avoid those products, honestly. So just be aware if there's a negative connotation with a product, you might want to reconsider, but it's not saying that you can't do that at all. But there are repercussions of bad affiliate deals and promotions. So let's talk about the third thing, diet. Now, when we hear diet, we think about like crash dieting and stuff. But where I want to really take this is really eating to optimize your mitochondria. We'll talk about what that means, kind of like in a scientific way without being too scientific, and how that directly correlates to energy. So, fun fact, back in my 20s, I could actually eat almost everything. I don't know. I think back in 2012, we made this poor decision. I think we went to go eat ramen that day. I ate Japanese curry. We ate pho. We went boba. We went back to back to back. And at the end of the day, we felt like complete ass. And this was a really bad decision. I think my friend threw up like to the right of me, and then my friend threw up to the left of me. I don't think I threw up this day, but it was a really poor decision and probably wasted a lot of money too, just overeating. When I look back to my 20s, I was like, oh man, I could actually kind of do this, right? And tank it. I'm 36 as I'm shooting this. But as I get closer to 40, I'm just like, no way could I do this stupid crap that I did back in the day, right? And so one thing I realized is as I'm getting older and closer to 40, it's harder to focus and work longer hours than it was before. I'll get these like tightness and muscle tightness, or like my hips, like it's just like things get harder. Actually, my attention span has increased. Like the intensity of my focus has changed a lot. Like it's super intense. But I can't go for like long 8-hour study sessions like I could before back when I was a kid. And now, like as I'm older, I realize like since my revenue is directly tied to my productivity, really making sure I show up and optimizing my energy is crucial as fuck, you know? And I think one of the biggest lies about energy is like when we think about a good diet, we just think about calories in and calories out, right? And so while it's really great for kind of leaning down and stuff, this is not the focus for today. And we just forget that the food quality, like the micronutrients and the timing of food, impacts are things like our energy. There's a hormonal response to everything too, and things affect our metabolism, right? A great example I saw from this Diary of a CEO episode, and I'll have all the links later. But one of the guests was saying alcohol has calories, but also has hormonal effects too, higher in estrogen and all that. It's just really interesting. But the prime example I really want to talk about are things like sugar and high carbohydrate diets, right? So there's this little thing that we have called insulin. You've probably heard about this, like with diabetics and stuff, but you're like, what the hell is it? The way I think about it, it's almost like a vacuum cleaner, right? It controls our blood sugar. Like the way I like to think about it is sucks it up and shuttles it into the cell. But anyways, I think all of us have kind of gone through this before where we like go through this tiredness or sugar crash. Like we might ingest a lot of sugar, super hyper for a little bit, and then we just like, oh. And you're like, oh, why do I suddenly feel so tired after sugar? And usually when we have a huge sugar spike, it releases a lot of insulin, and the insulin does too good of a job and actually lowers our blood sugar too low. And that's when we have this like crash and we feel sleepy and stuff, right? And so when we hear terms like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to improve my insulin sensitivity, what it basically means is how well your body responds to insulin. The more sensitive your insulin is, the better, because like it won't do those huge drops. It'll stay in kind of like the green area, which you can see in the graph. And it means that you have better blood sugar regulation ability, right? This is a very basic overview of like how insulin works. But something that we don't realize is like over time, the more times we do this, the body actually stops responding to insulin. And so what happens is like we have high blood sugar all the time. And this can lead to a lot of heart issues and weight gain. And then it can lead to diseases like diabetes type 2. And it's when our body can't really regulate our blood sugar anymore, right? And so here's a really great example. So during the ramen and pho and all boba challenge thing that we did, I was probably ideal when I was in a fasted state. So I ate this like noodles and heavy carbs, right? And I was probably at the high area, right? And then I got that insulin release, and then I was like, oh, and then there's a picture of me like dying, right? Wanting to throw up. So that's kind of like how it kind of works, right? So one of the lessons that we can learn is like the better that we can control our blood sugar, the more energy we'll have. Let's go even deeper than this. Earlier I said eating to optimize our mitochondria. And if you don't remember from biology, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So if you don't know, mitochondria makes ATP, aka energy. This is how we like kind of store our energy. We break the bonds of the phosphates and stuff, and it releases energy, right? That's kind of how it works. We'll see like supplements like creatine And people are like, oh my God, I just feel so much stronger and power. And really what creatine does is help replenish those ATP levels. And so it's a very basic description of it, but basically helps make more ATP. So we have more energy. And then something that we need to know too is like, we hear things about high fructose corn syrup and stuff, or like even when we eat table sugar, it's made out of glucose and fructose from what I remember. I could be wrong on that. But basically, if you have high fructose, it actually decreases our ATP production too, because it affects the enzymes to make more, I think mitochondria, I can't remember. But basically, that's the role of mitochondria. So TLDR, the more mitochondria we have, the more efficient we make our mitochondria, the more ATP we can make, meaning the more energy that we have. The TLDR is nutrition and activity. We'll talk about that later. It can really help optimize our energy via the mitochondria and insulin sensitivity. And in short, you're just like, oh, this is great, but like, how are you actually doing it? Now, here are the 7 things that I'm doing. One, if I'm optimizing my energy and stuff, one of the things I want to do is sleep 7 to 8 hours every night. There's a huge cortisol benefit where cortisol, like that's the stress like hormone and stuff, but it makes things like losing weight and all that a lot harder. And so one of the things that I want to do is like, there's so many different processes on sleep. There's sleep experts and stuff, but one of the things I want to do is like, I always feel super energized after 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If I sleep that long, if I wake up earlier naturally, that's totally cool. But I want to prioritize that time to sleep, right? Just so I wake up more focused and stuff. Like when I get like 2, 3, I just feel so tired and I can't perform. Like those same waking hours aren't the same performance as normal, right? The other thing I do is cut out seed oils and processed sugar. You'll hear this whole thing about seed oils and they're high in omega-6, they're really refined. They take all these like unnatural things and it can lead to inflammation, like because of the high omega-6 content and stuff. There's a lot of documentaries on seed oils. Some of them are factual, some of them are not, but in general, I just like to cut them out. So these are your like vegetable oils and stuff like that. So I try to stay away from all that and try to eat at home as much as possible these days. And obviously, I try to cut out processed sugar. So I'm cool with fruit and stuff. I still limit kind of like, I'm not pounding durians every single day or tons of bananas or anything like that. But, like if it's fruit, usually it's cool. But like if it's like table sugar or anything like that, I try to avoid it. So especially in drinks, like no lemonade, I try to limit as much of that as possible. The other thing I realized too is like one of the things I do is intermittent fasting. You'll hear this a lot, but one of the things I realize is like when I'm in a fasted state, my focus is a lot higher because all the blood isn't being shuttled into digestion and all these digestive like processes. That's my theory, but and probably if I'm in ketosis, like the ketones really help the brain performance too. But basically I intermittent fast during the work hours. And so I usually go 16 hours fasted, 8 hours eating window. And I usually don't eat within the full 8 hours. Usually I'll just have 1 or 2 meals per day, spread out by like 2 or 3 hours apart. The other thing I do is I focus 90% of my meals on a low carb, animal-based diet. There's a lot of different diets out there. If you're vegan or something, you can find something that works for you. But for me, what I find is like an animal-based diet, mostly on proteins and cheeses, dairy, and like protein and stuff, steaks and ground beef and stuff. They really help optimize my performance. And I try to keep everything low carb to the whole crashes and stuff. Sometimes I will definitely have a bit of rice like after jujitsu training or something like that too. But the core thing is like, I like to stick to really simple single ingredients, right? Like I think that's the main thing. So much of our stuff is processed these days. The other thing I do is I take brain supplements. There's a lot of like CoQ10. It's really good for cardiac health, but also like optimizing our ATP, acetyl-L-carnitine. It helps shuttle, that helps with energy. Creatine we talked about earlier. Huperzine A is like acetylcholine like inhibitor or something like that. I can't remember, but basically it increases like the acetylcholine for mental processes and stuff. My MOA, my mechanism of actions might be off, so don't quote me on all this sort of stuff, but that's what I remember. I also drink protein bombs to mitigate cravings. So something I realized is like the more protein I have, the less likely I'll have like a craving or something like that. I drink a lot of protein bombs to mitigate those cravings. So I got this from Dan Go. He talks about the protein psyllium husk and green powder bomb. And then recently I took a 23andMe to see my genetics. Good news, by the way, I'm 100% Chinese, right? Like Southern Chinese. I'm straight out of Canton, pretty much. But the other cool thing I found out is like I have a lot more Neanderthal like genetics than majority of people. And so sticking to a more paleo diet probably makes a lot more sense for me. Basically, the whole concept is like I'm treating my body like an athlete and just fueling my body for optimal performance, right? If you're new, here's some really great resources. There's Paul Saladino. Some of his stuff might be controversial to people, but in my opinion, like his stuff is like really, really solid. Dan Go, he's really cool. He's like a startup guy who started taking his health seriously. Charles Poliquin, he actually passed away. He had a great series like that he was doing a presentation on, but I guess they took the YouTube channel down. So I have the recordings, but I don't have I couldn't find the original videos anymore. Guy on Diaries of the CEO was Stephen Bartlett and Robert Lutzig. I think he was an endocrinologist or something like that. He's a doctor, I believe, and was talking about kind of like what we talked about earlier. He has a really great explanation about like how sugar affects our focus and our energy. And Hamza Ahmed, he's more bro sciencey, but one of the things I love is like his storytelling, and he shares a lot of his experiences about what worked for him anecdotally and all that. Some great action items, like pretty much this is how I would decide things. Like if I was brand new, one, I would implement something like intermittent fasting. Just define your optimal eating times or your eating window. That's like the basis of all diet, right? If we think about like a normal diet, it's like 3 meals per day, right? But like for me, I like to choose 2 meals per day. So I probably would eat within probably like a 4-hour eating window. Like I'll eat like a late lunch and I'll eat dinner, because for some reason for me, what I find is like if I go light on the dinner, I'm starving at nighttime and I just set myself up for failure like every single time because I want to binge at night and stuff. And then decide an 80% diet. So on my MyFitnessPal, I actually have a set diet that I tend to default to. And I think having a default diet is really, really important. Dan Go's exercise, if you have 20 pounds to lose, he actually has a few videos and stuff on YouTube. He started popping up on YouTube. But one of the things I love is like he also has a plan for all the things that could go wrong, the obstacles. And he does an obstacle solution type of thing. Like, for example, I'll get burger cravings at night. And so like, okay, what is a solution for that? Or what is the 80-20 solution for that? And it might be like, I'll meal prep like at home, but then like when I'm feeling really desperate, maybe I'll go In-N-Out, I'll get Flying Dutchman, like whole grilled wrapped with the grilled onion wraps, no salt. That'll be my default order. I'll just go that. So you have a plan for when things go wrong, when things go kind of wrong, and when things go severely wrong. Okay, let's go into the next one, training. So let's talk about breath work and exercise to boost energy. You're probably like, oh yeah, obviously, but there's a lot more nuance to this. So something that you guys probably don't know, one of the things I love is actually getting Thai massages every single week. No, you sick. It is not those type of massages, all right? We're PG, bro. But I love Thai massages. And something about Thai massages versus like the cheap Chinese ones is like they really get in the really great areas. It was really crazy. I think it was about a year or two ago, especially during my breakup. During my massages, I noticed I would get the best creative ideas. I felt like I would actually process my emotions, like with certain memories that would come up. There's this great book called The Body Keeps Score, and it talks about this a lot. It's by a doctor too, so. I also realized too, after every single massage, my energy level would shoot up after a massage too, which was really, really crazy. And I started noticing this trend where it was like whenever I worked my body, after every massage, acupuncture session, walking, BJJ, or meditation session, I would always feel super refreshed and super energized. Like sometimes when I'm in a creative block, I'll just go get a massage and then I'll go back to work and I'm like, holy, I feel like 100%. And the truth is, we can actually control our energy by moving or resting our body as well. Here are the 8 things that I'm doing right now to optimize it. I actually do walking breaks after deep focus sessions. So something I'll do is like, I actually have a physical timer, kind of like a modified Pomodoro, but I'll do like 50 minutes on my clock and then I'll work for 15 minutes. I'll set it to 10 minutes after it goes off, and I'll just take a quick walk around the coffee shop or like my neighborhood if I'm working at home, or I have a treadmill over there that I'll work on too. The other thing I do is I'll walk while working. So sometimes in the morning, I try to get my 10K steps. Like I'll walk for like an hour or two, like on that treadmill, and I'll just do some computer work or just like do some with ChatGPT these days. I'll just like do some dictation on my phone and just write articles and different ideas and all that. That's a really great way to get things done while losing weight. Also strength train too. So like I do this routine called 5-3-1. It's a strength-based routine. I've been getting stronger recently. Gonna hit all my goals, but I do that 2 to 3 times a week actually. Like probably more 2 these days because I train a lot of jujitsu, which leads me to the next thing, training jujitsu. That's 4 to 5 times per week. It's pretty intense, but what I find is like I really like jujitsu because it increases it's high intensity and it increases my VO2 max. So meaning like it helps me push a lot harder too. And plus the aspect of jujitsu, there's a lot of form stuff with like powerlifting and stuff, but what I really love about jujitsu is there's this like active mental component, which I think is really beneficial. I also like try to do sled and elliptical 1 to 2 times per week. I'm not gonna lie, I've been slacking on this. Being able to do some general purpose work or GPP really helps out too with my energy levels. I'll usually batch that up with my strength training sessions. I try to do mobility once a day. So I'll either go online to do like yoga poses or something like that. Like recently I've been just going on YouTube and just doing some mobility stretches, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, things like that. But one of the things I would ideally do is probably go back to yoga studio and all that. I just don't have the time to do it, and my yoga studio closed down here in Vegas. So ever since then, I never went back. Another thing, this is a huge hack, in between, like sometimes I'll take breaks in between my focus sessions with like a yoga nidra or NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, where you're kind of like in this, I think, theta state with the brainwaves. So you're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake, and you're just kind of like in this type of thing. I do that 3 times a day. I'll do it like in the morning, in between my breaks and stuff. It really helps reset me when I can't get a full massage. And obviously, if I lived in Thailand, I'd probably get a massage after every single break, dude. It feels so good. And acupuncture. Acupuncture has been really big for me, energy-wise. As you're looking through this, you're probably like, holy Kevin, there's just so much. But something I do is like I spread it throughout the day and I block these out too. And I gotta be really honest, there's no way I could do this if I had a 9 to 5. If I was working my pharmacy job and all that, it'd be really hard to do it. But while I'm not always perfect, this is just the game plan I set out every single day. So I have all these things blocked out. It's kind of like the diet plan that we had before, where like you just have a default plan to do something at every hour. Sometimes if I'm like really dying from jujitsu training, like maybe I rolled like a lot, everything's been high intensity and like my fatigue has just building up over the weeks, I'll take a day off and stuff because I'm not competing or anything like that. So like it just really helps, but I at least always have a game plan. So what are the action items? I think 1, deciding a low intensity active recovery vehicle, like walking. Just decide something, like how often you're gonna walk. I love walking. I think walking is really great. Like I go on like walking dates with some of my friends and stuff when I'm not allergic to everything like I am right now. I'll walk on the treadmill too. Decide a passive recovery vehicle. So things like massage and acupuncture. Decide a strength training routine. So important. 5-3-1 and all that. What I realize sometimes though, like sometimes if I'm training really heavy, it does take a toll on my CNS and like I do get bucked sometimes. So I'll save this for later in the day, especially the more intensive stuff. Decide a mobility routine like yoga, or you can do YouTube yoga as well. And decide a high VO2 max activity. For mine, it's BJJ, but you might be like sprinting and running, or maybe it's like, think about those like HIIT type of stuff, like something to elevate your heart. Okay, so those are action items. Now, let's go on to the last part, which I think is really important. Up until this point, we have friends, we're building up our network and connections, right? We have a offer. We're starting to look around our house and look at affiliate offers and stuff, or maybe even create our own offers one day. We've kind of optimized our mitochondria and insulin and our all that with diet and training. Now let's get into the super tactical, which is environment. and it's optimizing your environment for different tasks. So this is like what working looks like. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but I actually have a lot of journals. I've tried different journal techniques, but even though I've tried a lot of different ones, I hated how rigid they were. So one of the things I love is like the 5-minute journal. It's really great. It was recommended by Tim Ferriss at the time. That's how old I am. Even though I like some of these modalities, I hated how rigid they were. And sometimes I'd have these thoughts, but I didn't have a way to capture them. And then recently I watched my friend Eric. His name on YouTube is Reisu, but he had a 1 million plus view video on journaling. And so some of the cool things that I saw him like tracking was his business and health goals. He has a habit tracker. For me personally, I've been like kind of really dialing in on my mission and vision. Something's really, really important. But also something I've been tracking too is something like my energy. But one of the cool things that you can start correlating now is like tracking things like your daily activities, your energy levels, different patterns, what drains and energizes you. If you can't tell, like most of my energy like is really strong until like 3 or 4 p.m. and then it just fades, right? So, and I notice like when I have the most energy too, right? Like I have a huge shoot up of energy, like probably like an hour after day and stuff. Meditation boosts my energy. Like I can see the things that kind of drain or take away my energy. When I started noticing these patterns, I started optimizing my calendar and using time blocking. I set up like a training session and a deep work session. Each day is a different day for me. I didn't put it on this slide, but like Mondays will be like my CEO day. Tuesday or Wednesday will be my creator day. Like I'm shooting this, I believe, on Wednesday. So I do a lot of my shooting on Wednesdays. So you can set up your different deep work sessions and stuff. Sometimes I just free flow too. I just choose the top 3 priorities. But I have a 3 to 4 hour deep focus session. I have a second training session, which is like really relaxed and stuff like that. And then I'll have a second deep work session and then a third training session too, which will be super chill. Usually most intense one is like that first block. And I move the block sometimes too, but one thing I started noticing as I was setting up my sessions was that my 2 p.m. block, I would always be so freaking tired. I would like literally lie in the other side of the room and I would just crash, just like not want to do anything after. And if I did work, it took a lot of willpower to work, right? Especially if I'm trying to do it in this like office / bedroom. I just wouldn't get anything done. It just wasn't efficient use of my time. But it wasn't until I started changing my physical environment where I would be like super energized. And one of the cool things I didn't talk about these slides is one of the things I like to do is do something called co-working. So I actually just like to hit up one of my friends and be like, yo, you down to co-work? And we'll chat for like maybe 5-10 minutes and then get to working. And so some of my favorite destinations that I love to co-work at or just work by myself is like Whole Foods. Whole Foods has really fast internet. I did a whole video about it. But Whole Foods, and plus you don't have to buy anything too. Like sometimes like when you go to these places, you feel the need to buy something to support the business. But since Whole Foods is like corporate as they don't care if you buy anything or anything like that, even though I end up buying on like Whole Foods. There's coffee shops that you can go to. I love like bougie independent coffee shops. I rarely go to Starbucks or Dunkin' or anything like that. There's boba shops. I usually get like non-sugar drinks and just straight tea. Like there's a matcha drink I love like here in Vegas, but things like that. I go to random casino food courts. So if you ever see me in Vegas, like I'll be at the Cosmos sometimes or Resort World or all these different places, right? There's something about like putting on the headphones and just working in public places and the chaos around me that really inspires ideas and gets my energy up. I also really like the Capital One 360 Cafe. They have a coffee shop there, but then you're not required to buy anything either, which is cool. And even shopping malls. Again, it's kind of like the casino effect where all this chaos is happening. And that's the thing, like I just try to choose places that are relatively close to my house, but also like sometimes it's a bit away, which is okay. You know, I don't mind driving, but then like I just try to find very frictionless ways where I don't feel forced to spend money and stuff, even though it's like $4 or $5 and stuff like that. But it adds up because at the end of the day, my goal is to work, not like grab drinks and stuff too. It's nice to have it, but I mean, usually at Whole Foods, I'll buy like sparkling water and just like and a coffee and stuff, and I'll just pound through it. Okay, so what are the action steps? So I would say 1, block out your eating window. You should have this already, but it gives you an idea of how to structure everything else. You block out your deep focus sessions. So like I like to do 2, and like you can first set it for like 2 to 3 hours. I have mine for 4 since I can focus a lot longer. Then you want to block out your training sessions. Very, very important, because if you don't schedule it in, it probably won't get done. I didn't write this, but like if I add another point, is like blocking your time off too, right? I think that's really important, because we have this tendency where we fill in our schedule like back to back to back, and that's not always the best idea. The other thing I like to do is write out the location options for our deep focus sessions too. So like, you know how I had this whole list of places that I like to go? You want to figure out the specific places you want to check out. It can actually be really fun. You can check out new coffee shops or new destinations that you heard of before too. Or you can steal my list. You can get a physical timer, like right here. I'll have links for descriptions below too. You can also work at home too. There's nothing wrong with that. I would only suggest like if ideally if you have a separate room, that'd be ideal. If you don't, that's cool too. So those are the 5 steps, but I want you to like kind of close your eyes right now and imagine 12 weeks from now. 12 weeks from now, you're making new friends, hosting events every month. You're making money talking about the things that you've bought and love and raving about it. You're eating an effortless diet that makes you feel energized. You're training every day because you just love the way it makes you feel. And you can work longer and get more done in one session than most would do in 1 week. I really want you to take that in, because that's the biggest difference I've kind of noticed within my last month as I've been optimizing my schedule. And I'm hoping by doing this, you know, these things, it will save you from doing unfulfilling work, right? Gives you an outside project where you can focus a lot more of your stuff on something that you actually give a fuck about. You won't be stuck with a single source of income. Like, this is really important, by the way. Like, when I was a pharmacist, I felt like I was at the whim of my employer. But now, like, when I have like different clients and stuff and I have all these revenue sources, I'm just like, if someone approached me and like, hey, you want to make like $2,000 a day with a ClickFunnels guru? I can say no, because like I have multiple sources of income, right? Which really helps. I'm hoping this really saved you from feeling alone and disconnected. Especially the relationship part is the biggest mover. I cannot tell you how many people feel so alone. That's actually why I started my mastermind, because I met all these creators who felt very disconnected and didn't really have too many friends and all that. I hope it saves you from numbing yourself on IG and doom scrolling your life away. Like, I have this tendency, especially at night, I feel the craving to doom scroll all the time and watch like, how much does your apartment cost? Like all this like stupid interview stuff or prank stuff. And also I hope it saves you from feeling and looking like complete. You know, one of the things that I feel like is underrated is like the inner work is really, really important. And in my opinion, things like mental health are like the gym for the brain. That's a reminder for me too. Something I want to do is like, I want to look really good naked and stuff like that too, for vanity reasons. And so my promise at the beginning of this video was like, I'll teach you my productivity system that will make you more money, optimize my energy, and all while being happier. And so the thing is like the money, the happiness, like the energy, it's not going to be like straight exponential or linear growth all the time. You're going to have these fluctuations, but over time, you'll notice that the fluctuations are trending upwards. It's kind of like the stock market, like with index funds and stuff. And so with these 5 things, I've actually delivered my promise to you. Now, one last thing, I just want you to buy my guru course. I'm just kidding. My mission is really great. The best online school for creators. So if you want to unlock your full potential and you want to learn how to become an entrepreneurial creator, master essential skills, build superhuman health, subscribe and sign up for the newsletter. Link is in the top description below. And if you still don't trust me and think I'm a ClickFunnels guru, even though I didn't pitch you a guru course in this, then watch this video that the algo gods will think you'll love and like. That is pretty much it. Links for everything else is in the description below too. Stay compassionate. Love you guys. Take care. Peace, mother people. Bye.